Joe Anderson and Al Clopine of Pure Financial Advisors have the answers to your retirement plan. This is your money, your wealth.
Hey, Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to the show, Your Money, Your Wealth. Joe Anderson here, Big Al Clopine sitting over there. Couple of things when it comes to New Year's. Resolutions, quitting smoking, losing weight, getting in shape, falling in love, or how about getting your financial affairs in order? I can't help you lose weight. I cannot help you quit smoking. I certainly can't help you fall in love. But what we can do on this show is get you financially aware of what you need to do to make sure that you are successful with your finances. That's what's on my mind today. Hey, a couple of different things to consider when it comes to successful finances, when it comes to your overall retirement. Things have changed quite a bit. There's a lot of confusion on how to have a successful retirement. Let me tell you a myth. It's not about how much money that you have. It has nothing to do with your net worth. That's what people strive for. How much money do I need to build? But I'll tell you what, it's how much income that you can create from that huge amount of money that you're trying to build. So it has nothing to do with the net worth. It has something to do with the income, because here's the biggest risk that we face is that we are living a lot longer, 20, 30 years in retirement. How is your income going to create the lifestyle that you need for the next 20 or 30 years? You got health care costs, long-term care, a lot of different risks that you have to be aware of. We're going to get into the New Year's resolutions about your finances, but it's certain that things are going to happen in your life, and you just want to make sure that you're prepared for those instances. So to bring in the big man, let's get him in right now, the big man, Big Al Clopine. Happy New Year, my friend.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you. Now, do you have your resolutions already?
Yes.
I know what it is. You're going to fall in love this year.
You know what? I am going to fall in love this year.
Yeah.
That is exactly it, Al.
That's what I figured.
Yes,
yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, so in my case, I lost about 7 or 8 pounds a year ago. I got about 3 or 4 more to go. I'll get her done this year.
I think you look great.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, good work on
and
that.
you're going to fall in love. But,
okay.
But let's get into the meat of the show, which is New Year's resolutions regarding finances. And there was a really good article that just came out in U.S. News and World Report, and it talked about the 10 resolutions that you should consider with regards to finances. And that's what we're going to cover on this show. So here's all 10. Number 1 is increase your savings. And no mystery there. We know we need to save a little bit more. We're going to go over some strategies on how to do that. And then how about claiming tax breaks, like your 401k with your employer, maybe an IRA? How do you create some tax deductions? How about taking advantage of your employer match, right? So in other words, if you have a 401k and you put a few dollars in, maybe your employer will match it. That's going to add a lot more. Now, in many cases, the stock market's done pretty well. Maybe your investments are overweighted in stocks. Maybe it's time to rebalance because you have too much risk. And then how about looking at your investments? Maybe your investments are very expensive and you don't even know it, so we'll talk about that. Now, here's the next 5, is retirement income. Planning out what your retirement income is going to be, first of all, with regards to fixed income like Social Security, maybe pensions if you have them, but then also how to create income from your other assets. Then we'll get into cutting expenses, and this one's a little bit tricky, but there's some real easy ways to cut expenses that we want to get into, because that's one way to save more is to cut your spending. Social Security, there's many, many ways to take Social Security, and so you have to know how to do it. And then how about this? As far as part-time work and activities, what are you going to be doing with your time? And Joe, these 10 things are really the crux, I think, of retirement planning, and I think it's a great start with the year, the resolutions, to make sure that you're on track for retirement.
Right. If you just follow the top 10 list here, I think you'll be 95% ahead of the game. Little things. It's simple but not easy to implement, just with everything else in life. I mean, if you take a look at the number 1 New Year's resolution, it's always getting in shape, getting fit, getting buff, or whatever your goals are. But it's easier said than done because life gets in the way. You know, I know how to lose weight, right? You got to hit the gym, you got to eat, right? And you got to get some sleep.
It's not complicated.
Yeah, it's not complicated by any stretch.
But how about falling in love? That's more complicated.
Geez, can we get over the
Well, you said it over there.
Because it was in one of the top 10 resolutions that I read. It was like falling in love was one in the top 10.
Yeah, that's not so easy.
Yes, not necessarily my top 10. I'm just giving you some ideas of other people's resolutions.
Got it. All right. Well, let's switch to finances.
Please.
So how about we get right into this? How to increase your savings. And here's a couple tips that I think is good to know. Gradually increase your savings rate each year. So don't go from 0 to everything. Maybe try to save 1% more this year than last year. And if you get a raise or a bonus, just apply a little bit more of that to savings. Your goal over the long term should be to save about 10% of your gross pay or more. That's really the most successful people save that amount.
So here's a quick tip too. If you ever get a bonus increase in pay, well, 1/3 is going to go to tax, 1/3 go to fund, 1/3 has to go to savings. The lack of savings in America, if you look at the average balance of a retirement account of someone in their 50s and 60s, it's not nearly enough to sustain a retirement income for the next 20 or 30 years. So the goal is just to slowly start increasing it. The ultimate goal is to max out the retirement accounts that you have through your employer, but it's, like I said, it's easier said than done.
It is, and that's, so people don't even start because they think they're so far behind, but just start slow. Just do $100 a month.
Right. And one thing to be aware of too, if you look at the contribution limits for 2014, for this year, they've increased. So you want to take a look at if you have a 401k plan. It was $17,500, and now it increased, okay, to $18,000. So $17,500 went to $18,000, and then if you are over 50, you also get the catch-up. Now it's $24,000 that you can shelter pre-tax in regards to your overall retirement.
That's exactly right, and that brings us to our next point, which is make sure you claim your tax benefits. And this means with your employer plan, you may have a 401k, you may have a 403b, you may have another plan, and you can actually defer some of your salary towards that plan. You don't pay any current taxes. And Joe, as you just said, $18,000 is the number for 2015 and $24,000 if you're over 50.
And then you have to take a look at, one of the missed things that people do is they don't take advantage of free money. And then that's the employer match. So if you're looking at contributing to your 401k plan, make sure that you go to the max of the match. So if you look at the sequence of savings, all right, for most individuals, you want to save into your 401k plan to the match. And then from there, if you qualify, then you want to go Roth IRA. And then from there, if you still can save more money, then it would go back into the 401k. But that is free money. Most people that we see, they are contributing to their retirement accounts, and they're not fully utilizing that plan to get the full match. So make sure that you understand the plan through your employer to get that free money.
Yeah, and just in case you don't know what that means, so in other words, if you put 3% of your salary in the 401k, your employer will match that. So let's just say you make $100,000, so that's $3,000 that you put in, and your employer matches another $3,000. And to take a look at what this can look like over time, let's start with a 30-year-old and who's going to retire at age 65, annual salary $100,000. And what if that individual could get up to 5% of their salary? That's only $417 per month. Employer match being 4%, rate of return 7%. What do you have at retirement? $1,240,000. You're a millionaire. Now, for those of you at age 50, you haven't started yet, it's okay. Start now. If you work till age 70, that would be 20 years, you can get up to over $380,000 or so. So it's important, whatever age that you're at, is to make sure you start now.
All right, we're just getting started. Don't go anywhere. Show's called Your Money, Your Wealth. When we get back from the break, we're going to still dive into the resolutions that you want to take a look at. And then I'll get to the whiteboard, and we'll look at some simple things that you can potentially do when it comes to your overall investment, such as rebalancing, looking at fees, figuring out what your number is to make sure that you have a successful retirement. All much and much, much more to come right when we get back. You're watching Your Money, Your Wealth. Hey, and welcome back to the program. Show's called Your Money or Wealth. Joe Anderson here, certified financial planner, president of Pure Financial Advisors. Big Al Clopine sitting over there. Hey, getting back to New Year's. Happy New Year, everyone. We're getting into top 10 New Year's resolutions that you need to take a look at in regards to your overall finances. Before we dive back in, let's go to the multiple choice question that we played before the break.
If my employer doesn't have a retirement plan, I can still make contributions into which type of account? You have 4 choices: a regular IRA, a Roth IRA, a bank or brokerage account, or all of the above. And the answer is all of the above. And this is really important for you guys that don't have an employer-sponsored pension plan like a 401k or 403b. Realize that you can set up your own IRA, your own Roth IRA, or you can just put money into a savings account or brokerage account outside a retirement account. Now,
Al, there's also the new MIRA.
Yeah, true.
There's the new MIRA plan.
True,
that just came out here in 2014. So
yeah, no one really knows if that's going to work or not. But you're right, Joe, there is that plan. And realize that there are certain limitations. Not everybody can do an IRA or a Roth IRA, so you have to learn what those limits are. But you probably can certainly at least save in a brokerage account. Some of you can do all three. So just be aware you've got other ways to save, even if your employer doesn't have a savings plan.
Hey, a couple of other little things, little tidbits that you need to take a look at in regards to your resolutions for a better retirement life or just better financial life. One of them is rebalancing your portfolio. So when you take a look at rebalancing, the market has done very well lately, and so a lot of you might be heavily weighted in stocks versus bonds, depending on, of course, what your allocation was. So let me draw this out real quickly for you, is that let's say you see this pie chart, and most people are familiar with what a pie chart is, and you might have 50% of your allocation in stocks, and then you might have 50% of your allocation in bonds. Maybe this was the allocation in 2009. Well, the S&P 500 has done almost 200%, over 200% since that time frame. So guess what happened to your portfolio? Is that now you don't have 50% of the portfolio, right? It has shifted. It might be now, right, 30% in bonds and now 70% in stocks. So what do? Now you're heavily weighted in stocks. It feels good because you're getting a high rate of return, but guess what? You're also taking too much risk. So you want to make sure that you control the risk parameter of that overall portfolio. So anytime these things get out of whack, you want to sell the stocks to get you back to 50%. Because guess what? Stocks go up and also stocks go down. So you want to make sure that you can control the risk, and rebalancing is a simple thing that you can do to make sure that you can control that risk. Al?
Another thing, Joe, is reducing fees, and a lot of investments come with high fees. And a lot of people don't really know that there are fees, and here's three different costs that you may or may not know about. One is the initial load. There are some loaded mutual funds where you actually have to pay to get into them. Many are no load. No load, of course, is better because you're not paying anything. But even more importantly is the annual fund fees. A lot of these mutual funds have very high internal fees. Morningstar says the average is about 1.3%. Now, some index funds are closer to 0.2, 0.3%, so they're much lower. And then also you got to look at turnover. Turnover is the fund manager buying and selling stocks inside the portfolio. And when that is done, it's costing you a lot of money. In fact, 100% turnover equates to about a 1% charge on your portfolio. So in other words, if you otherwise would have received 10% rate of return, you're receiving 9%. So be aware of these fees because there are certain investments that have lower fees.
Here, let's just take a look at a real quick, simple example. Let's say if you keep your money in cash treasuries, right now the 10-year treasury is at about 2%. Very little fees in the 10-year treasury, right? So here, I keep it in the treasury, I don't invest it. And then if I have $10,000 annual savings and I save that for 30 years, okay, my retirement age is 65, I would have a good chunk of money of $500,000. But now let's say I want to get into some investments. I want to get a little bit higher rate of return. Look at the impact of fees here. So let's say I have the same investment, but one is an index fund. Okay, a passively managed fund, an exchange-traded fund that has very low fees. As Al just said, according to Morningstar, the average fund fee, we've seen it could be as high as 3 or 4%, but let's say just on average, it's 2%, okay? So here, if you have those high fees, right, instead of zero fees or very little fees, you're getting a 7% return versus 5%. That 2% annual compound fee is paying the brokerage firms, right? It's paying Wall Street. Look at the difference in end of money here, $1.4 to $900,000. That's $500,000 that is going to unnecessary fees. So you absolutely want to make sure that you take a look at the fees that you're paying. It's a huge deal, Al.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Joe. And I think the next thing really has to be figuring out what your number is, trying to calculate how much that you need to retire. And it's actually not that complicated, but hardly anyone knows how to do it. So Joe, why don't you illustrate?
All right, real quickly. I've done this a couple of times on this show, but here's the deal. Let's say if you got to first come up with your goal, how much money that you want to spend. If you want to spend $100,000 a year, I know that's a large number, but it's fun to do. I want to spend $100,000 a year. That's the goal, all right? Now the second step is you have to take a look at what your fixed income sources are. What is your pensions? What's the Social Security? Do you have real estate income? You have to add all that up, right, and subtract that from the goal. So let's say that is $50,000, all right? So then this creates a shortfall. So now I need $50,000 from my portfolio. It could be $10,000, it could be $5,000, or let's say in this scenario, it's $50,000. So what's the next step? Well, this has to come from the liquid assets that I have built up in my IRAs, 401ks, Roth IRAs, my brokerage accounts. Then I have to figure out what is the number? How much money do I need in all those accounts? There's something that's called a 4% distribution rule. You don't want to take out any more than 4% of the portfolio. So you have to divide this number by 4%. Here's an easier way to do it. Just multiply it by 25. So here's the number. So if I take 50 grand and I multiply that by 25, Al, help me out. What does that equal?
That's $1,250,000.
It's about a 1.2 million. It's a large number. But that at least tells you what you need as a nest egg. Real quickly, if I have a $60,000 goal and I have $50,000 of fixed income, so my shortfall is 10 grand, you just multiply that 10 grand by 25, now you need 250,000. It works with anything. All you have to do is figure out what your shortfall is, but it always starts with your goals. Al.
Joe, here is another resolution that's really important. It's cutting your expenses. And for many people, it's like, well, wait a minute, I can't really cut everything. Well, let me give you a tip on how to do this. Number one would be to itemize your monthly expenses. And if you use Quicken, great. But if you don't worry about it. Just go through your bank statement. Look at where you're spending your money. And look and see whether these are essential or non-essential expenses. On your bank statement, put an E by things that are essential and an N by things that are non-essential, and then simply take a look at those non-essential expenses and try to cut some of them. And here's some quick ideas. Maybe your insurance policies. Maybe you can reduce or increase your deductible, which is going to reduce your premium. Maybe your cable channels. You're not watching all those channels. Maybe you can reduce your expenses that way. Maybe you're going to Starbucks 5 times a week. Maybe do 2 instead of 5 times, and on and on and on. And you'll be amazed by just doing little things. You can cut your expenses and save a lot more money towards retirement.
Yeah, what, cut a couple of bucks there?
Well, it adds together.
Yeah, it sounds like I'll save like $8 a year doing.
No.
But anything helps, right? Anything helps. So that $8 compounded by a 10% rate of return over the next 10,000 years,
well, yeah,
you might have $50
for one day. But I mean, if you do this every day, maybe you go to lunch 3 times instead of 5 times a week, and
well,
that adds up.
You gotta eat.
Yeah, but you make your own sandwich. Come on.
All right, we got to take a break. When we get back, we're going to wrap up the show. We're going to finish some of the 10 things that you want to do to make sure that you start the new year off with a better peace of mind of what your finances really look like and what they can become. It's pretty powerful just tweaking your overall situation, so don't go anywhere. The show's called Your Money and It's Your Wealth. Hey, welcome back to the program. Hopefully you are enjoying your New Year's. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, everyone. The show's called Your Money, Your Wealth. I'm Joe Anderson. I'm with Big Al Clopine. We're talking about 10 things that you need to do to secure a financial future. And I guess the last couple, and then Big Al wants to wrap things up, is to really take a look at some income, and then we'll look at part-time work, and then you got to have the activities, of course. You got to babysit the grandkids. So now that's being said, let's go to the true false.
All right. I should generally make a contribution to a Roth IRA before I contribute to my employer's 401k plan. What do you think, true or false?
Well, it depends on your taxable situation, but I would say if they have a match, you want to definitely go into the 401k first up to the match, then go to the Roth IRA, then go back to the 401k.
I agree with that. So the answer is false. Start with your 401k to at least get the match, and then you can go back to the Roth IRA if you want to.
And if you don't have a match, and if you're in a low tax bracket, then I would definitely go Roth IRA first, max that out, then go to the 401k.
Yeah, that makes sense. Very good. Okay, so all the combinations. So let's start with Social Security.
Well, we got a minute.
I know, we got a minute.
There's many different ways. We've done a whole show on Social Security. Go to the archives if you want.
I know. Yeah, forget this part of the show. We'll just wrap it up.
Exactly. So Social Security, there's several different ways to take it. A lot of people take it right away at 62. Just remember, if you can't, you qualified to take it at 62. If you take it at 62, you are taking a haircut. If you wait till your full retirement age, 66, 67 for most people, then you get your full retirement. But if you wait till age 70, you get an 8% increase per year. So our advice is always to push that thing off as long as you can. Also, there's activities, right? There's some activities you want to do in retirement. Work part-time, do things like that.
That's right. Make sure babysit the grandchildren.
Yes.
Travel.
There they are.
Oh, here we go. Hobbies,
yes. How about if you don't
travel.
have grandkids? How about if you're not even married, Al?
Well, that's your problem. Everyone else is married with grandkids.
Yes, everyone else is.
But you're going to find love this year, I know.
Oh, God, I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming. And then if you can let's just do the full 10 list, and we'll go through it, and we'll cap up the show, and then we'll get out of here. First thing is you want to increase your savings. You want to take a look at, save as much as you can. Look at tax breaks. Try to max out your 401k plans, because that will give you a pre-tax deduction. Then you want to take a look at the employer match. Then you want to rebalance. You want to reduce your fees as much as you can. Look at retirement income. What retirement income sources are going to come to you? What is your number?
Yeah,
then
we
want to
cut
look
expenses,
at
Social Security. Should you work part-time or activities? There you go.
There you go. There you have it. If you follow those 10 things, I can guarantee you one thing: you'll be better off this year than you were last year. We're wishing you a very happy holiday season. Come back again next week. You just watched Your Money, Your Wealth.